Hello students, welcome to another video of Upskilling Commerce series. Today we will be discussing about financial markets. So let's get started. Financial markets are structured systems where people, companies and governments come together to buy and sell financial instruments such as stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities and derivatives. These markets play a crucial role in the smooth functioning of the economy by facilitating the movement of funds from those who have surplus money to those who need money for productive purposes. In simpler terms, financial markets act as bridge connecting the suppliers of capital with the users of capital. There are different types of financial markets depending on the type and duration of instruments being traded, such as the capital market for long-term instruments, the money market for short-term instruments, the derivative markets for hedging risks, the forex market for currency exchange, and the commodity market for trading raw materials like gold and oil. We will discuss about all these markets further in our lecture. In India, the financial market is regulated and supported by several key institutions. The Reserve Bank of India manages the money market and monetary policy, while the Securities and Exchange Board of India regulates the capital and derivatives market to ensure fair practices and investor protection. Stock exchanges like the National Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange provides platforms for trading securities, while depositories like NSDL and CDSL hold securities in electronic form. Over the years, with liberalization, technological advancements and the growth of digital platforms, financial markets in India have become more transparent, efficient and accessible. Today, even small retail investors can invest in stocks and mutual funds using mobile apps and digital wallets, making financial markets a key part of everyday economic life. Understanding how these markets work is essential for anyone pursuing commerce, finance or entrepreneurship. Now let's see types of financial market. The first one is capital market. The capital market is a financial market where long-term debt or equity-backed securities are bought and sold. It provides a platform for raising capital to support business expansion, infrastructure development, and economic growth. The instruments traded here typically have a maturity of more than 1 year. It connects investors with borrowers. Capital markets has two main segments. The first is primary market and the second is secondary market. Talking about the primary market, it is a segment of the capital market where new securities are issued and sold for the first time. It is also known as new issue market. It allows companies, governments or institutions to raise fresh capital directly from investors by issuing shares, debentures or bonds. The most common example of a primary market transaction is an initial public offering known as IPO, where a company offers its shares to the public to raise funds. In the primary market, the investor buys securities directly from the issuer, and the price is usually fixed or decided through a book building process. Talking about secondary market, it is a market where already issued securities are bought and sold among investors. This market provides a platform for trading of existing shares, bonds and other instruments through stock exchanges such as the NSE, BSE and others. Unlike the primary market, companies do not receive any money from transactions in the secondary market. Only investors exchange ownership. The secondary market ensures liquidity, allowing investors to convert their holdings into cash at any time. It also plays a critical role in price discovery, as the value of securities is determined by market forces based on demand and supply. We will have a brief look towards secondary market and stock market in the coming part of our lecture. The next market is money market. The money market is a part of the financial system that deals with the short-term borrowings and lending of funds, typically for a period of 1 year or less. It is a highly liquid and low-risk segment that helps governments, banks, financial institutions and large corporations manage their short-term funding needs and cash flow mismatches. The instruments traded in the money market include treasury bills, which is issued by the government, commercial papers issued by companies certificate of deposits issued by banks, and call or notice money, which involves very short-term interbank lending. These instruments are generally considered safe with low returns due to their short maturity and low default risk. Example, imagine the government of India needs short-term funds for 91 days. So it issues treasury bills, which is also popularly called as T-bills. These are short-term debt instruments with a maturity of less than 1 year. Let's say a T-bill has a face value of rupees 100, but it is issued at a discounted price of rupees 97. An investor, like a bank or a financial institution, will buy it for 97 rupees today and receives 100 rupees from the government after 91 days. That 3 rupee is the return for the investor without any interest being paid directly. The next is derivatives market. Derivative market is a financial market where contracts known as derivatives are traded. These are financial instruments whose value is derived from an underlying asset such as stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, interest rates, or market indices. Common types of derivatives include futures, options, forwards, and swaps, each serving different risk management and trading strategies. It involves different participants such as hedgers, speculators, and arbitrageurs, each with unique roles. For example, you are a farmer expecting to harvest wheat in 3 months. You are afraid prices might fall. So you enter into a futures contract to sell your wheat at 2000 rupees per quintal in advance. No matter what the market price is after 3 months, you get the agreed price. You have hedged your risk using a derivative. The primary purpose of the derivative market is to help investors and businesses manage risk arising from fluctuations in prices of the underlying assets. The next is over-the-counter market. The OTC market is like a private deal between two people. Imagine buying a used phone directly from a friend. You negotiate the price and terms yourself. That's similar to how OTC works in finance. It is a decentralized financial market where securities and financial instruments are traded directly between two parties without being listed on a formal exchange like the NSE or BSE. Common instruments traded in OTC markets include unlisted stocks, corporate bonds, derivatives like forwards and swaps, foreign currencies, and structured products. For example, a large company wants to issue corporate bonds to raise money. It approaches big institutional investors like mutual funds or insurance companies. They negotiate terms directly like interest rate, amount, maturity, etc. and complete the trade outside the stock exchange. This is an OTC trade because it's done privately between two parties. While OTC markets offer greater flexibility and access to a broader range of instruments, they are less transparent and they involve higher counterparty risk since transactions are private and not regulated by a central clearing authority. This makes due diligence and trust between parties extremely important. Despite the risks, OTC markets play a significant role in global finance by supporting trade in specialized or less liquid instruments and enabling businesses to manage financial risks effectively. Next is foreign exchange market. The foreign exchange market, commonly called the forex market, is a global, decentralized platform where currencies are bought and sold. It is the largest and most liquid financial market in the world, operating 24 hours a day across different time zones. The main participants include central banks, commercial banks, multinational companies, governments, and retail traders. Currency values fluctuate based on factors like economic indicators, interest rates, political events, and supply-demand dynamics. For example, when someone travels abroad, imports goods, or invests in other country, they need to exchange their local currency for foreign currency. And all this takes place through the forex market. This market plays a crucial role in international trade, travel, investment, and maintaining exchange rate stability. Example, for international trade, when companies in India import goods, like oil from the Middle East or electronics from Japan, they have to pay in the seller's currency, not in rupees. So they exchange INR for USD or yen through the forex market. Example for foreign travel, when you travel abroad, say to US, your rupees won't be accepted there. So you convert INR to USD using the forex market. Example for investment, investors from other countries may want to invest in Indian companies or vice versa. To do that, they need to convert currencies. The next is commodity market. The commodity market is a type of financial market where raw materials and natural products such as gold, oil, wheat, cotton, and coffee are bought and sold. These are classified into hard commodities like metals and energy resources, and soft commodities like agricultural goods. In these markets, trading happens either in the spot market, which is for immediate delivery, or through derivative contracts like futures, where buyers and sellers agree on price for future delivery. Commodity markets help farmers, producers, and businesses manage price risks by locking in rates and avoiding losses due to sudden price fluctuations. In India, trading takes place through exchanges like MCX, which is the Multi Commodity Exchange, and NCDEX, which is National Commodity and Derivatives Exchange. Commodity markets aren't just for businesses, they also offer opportunities for investors. When an investor wants to reduce risk, they often diversify their portfolio, which means spreading their money across different assets like stocks, bonds, and commodities, because commodity prices often rise when inflation increases. For example, when prices of goods go up in general, gold and oil also tend to become more valuable. So, by investing in commodities, investors can protect their wealth during inflation, and this is called hedging. For example, a jewelry business depends heavily on gold. If gold prices rise sharply in the future, they could face heavy losses when buying gold for their products. To avoid this, the businesses can enter into a gold futures contract, agreeing to buy gold at today's price for delivery at a later date. This way, even if the market prices increase later, they will still pay the lower price they locked in and avoid a loss. And the next is cryptocurrency market. A cryptocurrency market is a digital platform where people buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. Unlike traditional financial markets, crypto markets are decentralized, meaning they are not controlled by any government, central bank, or single institution. Transactions happen directly between users over the internet using blockchain technology, which ensures transparency and security. This market operates 24/7 and is highly volatile, meaning prices can change rapidly in short periods. People invest in cryptocurrencies for various reasons. Some see it as a long-term digital assets, others trade it for short-term profits. However, since the market is still evolving, it also carries high risks, and in countries like India, it's not yet fully regulated. Now let's discuss about different types of financial instruments. The first is equity. Equity is a financial instrument that represents ownership interest in a company, typically in the form of shares or stocks. When you buy equity, you become a part owner of the company and gain rights such as voting on corporate decisions and receiving dividends, which are portions of the company's profits. Equity instruments are traded on stock exchanges and their value fluctuate based on the company's performance and market demand. Unlike debt instruments, equity carries higher risk but offers potential for greater returns through price appreciation and dividend income. It is a crucial tool for companies to raise capital and for investors to participate in business growth. Next is debt. Debt instruments are financial tools used by individuals, companies, and governments to raise capital by borrowing funds from investors or lenders. These instruments represent a legal obligation for the borrower to repay the borrowed amount, called the capital, along with interest over a specified period. Common types of debt instruments include loans, bonds, debentures, and commercial paper. They typically involve a fixed or variable interest rate and a defined maturity date. Debt instruments are considered less risky than equity. They provide regular income through interest payments and usually have priority in case of bankruptcy. For the borrower, they offer a way to access funds without giving up ownership in the business. Overall, debt instruments play a crucial role in financial markets by facilitating the efficient flow of capital between savers and borrowers. Next is derivative. A derivative is a financial contract whose value is based on or derived from the price of an underlying asset. This underlying asset can be anything with financial value, such as a stock, bond, commodity, currency, interest rate, or market index. In simple terms, a derivative does not have value of its own. Its price depends on the performance of something else. For example, a gold futures contract is a derivative whose value changes with the price of gold. Next is future. A futures contract is a standardized agreement traded on exchanges where two parties agree to buy or sell an asset at a set price on a future date. It is issued for hedging or speculation on price changes in commodities, currencies, stocks, or other financial instruments. Futures require margin deposit, offer leverage, and are settled daily market to market. At expiration, they can be settled by delivery or cash. Futures help manage risk and provide liquidity in financial markets. Next is option. An option is a financial instrument that represents a contract between two parties, a buyer and a seller. It gives the buyer the right but not the obligation to buy or sell an underlying asset such as stock, commodity, or currency at a predetermined price called the strike price on or before a specific expiration date. For this right, the buyer pays a fee to the seller known as the premium. There are two main types of options: call options, which gives the right to buy the asset, and put options, which give the right to sell it. If the market moves in a favorable direction, the buyer can exercise the option and make a profit. If not, the buyer can choose not to exercise the option, losing only the premium paid. The seller, on the other hand, has the obligation to fulfill the contract if the buyer exercises the option. Options are widely used in financial market for various purposes such as hedging risk, speculating on price movements, or generating income. Unlike futures contract, options provide the flexibility to choose whether or not to act, making them a powerful tool in investment strategies. Next is swap. A swap is a financial contract where two parties agree to exchange streams of cash flows or liabilities over a set period, typically to manage financial risks or improve financing terms. The most common types are interest rate swaps and currency swaps. Swaps allow companies to hedge against risks like interest rate or currency fluctuations, access better borrowing rates, and tailor financial management to their needs. For example, if one company has a fixed rate loan and another has a floating rate loan, they can swap their payment obligations. This way, each company gets the type of interest payment it prefers without renegotiating with their original lenders. Swaps are highly flexible, customizable, and usually arranged privately, which allows for specific terms to suit each party. Next is forward. A forward contract is a financial agreement between two parties to buy or sell an asset at a specific price on a future date. It is a type of derivative instrument, meaning its value is based on an underlying asset such as a commodity, currency, or financial security. Unlike standard contracts traded on exchanges, forwards are customized and traded privately, allowing the terms such as price, quantity, and delivery date to be tailored to the need of both parties. Forwards are commonly used to hedge against price fluctuations or to speculate on future price movements. For example, a business may use a forward contract to lock in the cost of raw materials or foreign currency in advance, protecting itself from future market volatility. However, because they are private agreements, forwards carry counterparty risk, meaning there is a chance one party may fail to fulfill the contract at maturity. Next is hedging. Hedging is a financial strategy used to minimize the risk of loss due to unfavorable price movements in the market. It involves taking an opposite or offsetting position in a related asset to protect against potential losses in the original investment. For example, a company expecting to receive foreign currency in the future might use a forward contract to lock in the exchange rate, ensuring stable income despite currency fluctuations. While hedging doesn't prevent losses entirely, it helps reduce uncertainty and provides more financial stability. In short, hedging is like buying financial insurance. It's a protective measure taken to limit the impact of unpredictable market movements. It allows individuals and businesses to operate with greater certainty by offsetting potential losses through carefully chosen financial strategies. Next is speculation. Speculation is the act of buying or selling financial assets with the aim of making a profit from price changes. Speculators try to predict how the market will move and take risks to benefit from those movements, often over a short period. Unlike hedging, which is meant to reduce risk, speculation involves taking on risk to earn potential rewards. The next is forex swap. A forex swap is like borrowing one currency and lending another at the same time, with the agreement to swap them back in the future. It helps manage currency risks and liquidity. On the start date, two parties exchange a certain amount of currency at the spot rate. On the maturity date, they reverse the exchange at a forward rate that includes interest rate differences. Example, a company in India needs $1 lakh today but will receive dollars in 3 months. It uses a forex swap. Today, it will buy $1 lakh by paying INR at the current rate. And after 3 months, it will sell $1 lakh and gets INR back at the pre-agreed rate. This way, the company gets dollars now and avoids risk from future exchange rate changes. Now let's discuss in detail about what is a stock market. A stock market is a centralized platform where individuals and institutions buy and sell shares of publicly traded companies. It serves as a critical component of the modern economy by allowing companies to raise capital from investors in exchange for ownership stakes called stocks or shares. Investors participate in the stock market with the goal of earning returns through price appreciation of stocks and, in some cases, dividends paid by companies. The market operates through stock exchanges such as the New York Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, which facilitate the trading of stocks in a regulated and transparent manner. Prices of stocks fluctuate constantly based on supply and demand, company performance, investor sentiment, economic indicators, and global events. The stock market not only reflects the economic health of a country but also influences it, as rising markets can boost customer and business confidence, while falling markets can indicate or lead to economic slowdowns. Now let's talk about some basic terms in stock market. First is about stocks or shares. They represent ownership in a company. If you own a stock, you own a small part of that company. Next is public companies. These are those that offer their shares to the public through the stock market. The third is investors. Investors are those who buy stocks hoping their value will go up so they can sell them for a profit or earn dividends. The next is stock exchanges. They are places which can be physical or digital where this buying and selling of shares happen in a regulated way. Now let's see how stock market works. The first is companies go public. A company that wants to raise money for growth can go public by offering its shares to investors through an initial public offering. Once public, its shares are listed on a stock exchange. Investors buy and sell stocks. After a company is listed, its shares can be bought and sold by investors. These investors can be individuals, mutual funds, banks, or other institutions. They trade stocks through brokers or online trading platforms. Next is prices are set by supply and demand. The price of a stock changes based on how many people want to buy it, which creates demand, versus how many wants to sell it, which contributes to supply. If more people want to buy a stock, the price goes up. If more want to sell, the price goes down. Stock exchange match buyers and sellers. Exchanges use electronic systems to match buy orders with sell orders. When a buyer's offer matches a seller's asking price, the trade happens. Investors make or lose money. Investors can earn money if the stock price goes up and they sell at a higher price than they paid. Some companies also pay dividends, which are a share of the profits. Regulations keep it fair. The stock market is regulated by government bodies to protect investors, ensure transparency, and prevent fraud or manipulation. Now let's talk about the regulating authority of Indian stock market, which is SEBI, Security and Exchange Board of India. So the Security and Exchange Board of India is the chief regulatory authority of India's capital markets, established in 1988 and granted statutory powers in 1992 under the SEBI Act. Headquartered in Mumbai, SEBI's primary role is to protect investors' interests, regulate market participants, and ensure the smooth functioning of security market. It oversees entities such as stock exchanges, brokers, mutual funds, investment advisors, and companies issuing IPOs. SEBI plays a crucial role in maintaining transparency, stability, and investor confidence in India's financial system, making it a key institution. Now let's discuss main functions that are performed by SEBI. SEBI performs protective functions like preventing insider trading and fraudulent practices. It protects investors by making sure that people do not cheat or take unfair advantage in the stock market. One common unfair practice is insider trading, where someone uses secret information like company results or big decisions to buy or sell shares before the news becomes public. SEBI has strict rules to stop this. It keeps a watch on the market through special software that tracks unusual or suspicious trading. SEBI also makes companies share all important information with the public so that everyone gets the news at the same time. To stop fraudulent activities like fake news, price manipulation, or false promises to investors, SEBI investigates complaints and trading patterns. If someone breaks the rules, SEBI can punish them by charging fines, banning them from the market, or cancelling their license. It also runs awareness campaigns to help investors understand how to stay safe. In short, SEBI's job is to keep the stock market fair and safe for everyone. SEBI also performs regulatory functions like registering intermediaries and approving public issues. This is to make sure that everyone involved in the financial markets follow the rules and operates fairly. It registers market intermediaries such as stockbrokers, sub-brokers, mutual fund companies, credit rating agencies, and investment advisors. Before giving registration, SEBI checks if they meet certain conditions like having the right qualifications, infrastructure, and a clean record. Once registered, these intermediaries must follow SEBI's rules and code of conduct. If they break any rules, SEBI can take action like suspending or cancelling their license. SEBI also approves public issues like IPOs. A company that wants to raise money from the public must submit a detailed offer document called Draft Red Hiring Prospectus. SEBI reviews this document to ensure that all important facts are properly disclosed and that the company is not hiding any risks. Only after SEBI's approval can the company launch its IPO and offer shares to investors. This helps protect investors from scams and ensures they get correct and complete information before investing. SEBI also performs developmental functions like promoting investor education and encouraging digital innovations. SEBI's developmental functions are focused on making the market grow in a healthy and modern way. One of its key efforts is to promote investor education. SEBI runs awareness programs, workshops, and online campaigns to teach people about how the stock market works, how to invest safely, and how to avoid fraud. It also provides free resources, guides, and videos in multiple languages on its website so that even first time investors can understand financial concepts easily. Along with this, SEBI actively supports digital innovations in the market. For example, it has encouraged online trading platforms, digital KYC, and app based investing to make investing faster and more accessible. SEBI also promotes tools like e-IPOs, mobile alerts, and online grievance portals like Scores, which help investors save time and stay informed. By doing this, SEBI helps both the markets and investors grow smarter and more confident. SEBI oversees a wide range of entities in the financial markets to ensure fair practices, investor protection, and market stability. This includes stock exchanges, stockbrokers and subbrokers, mutual funds and their asset management companies, portfolio managers, investment advisors, credit rating agencies, foreign institutional investors, and company raising funds through IPOs or public offers. SEBI regulates these entities by granting licenses, prescribing code of conduct, monitoring compliance with rules and guidelines, and taking actions against violations. For instance, a company cannot launch an IPO unless SEBI reviews and approves its draft red herring prospectus. Mutual funds are required to register with SEBI and follow strict norms regarding disclosures, fund management, and investor communication. SEBI also keeps a close watch on trading activities through surveillance systems to detect insider trading or market manipulation. In case of violations, SEBI can impose fines, suspend registrations, or even ban entities from operating. Through these actions, SEBI ensures that all market participants operate transparently and fairly, maintaining investor confidence and market integrity. Now let's talk about different careers for a BCom graduate in the field of stock market. As a fresh BCom graduate aiming for a career in the financial markets, you can boost your chances by taking short SEBI recognized NISM certifications to meet industry requirements, building strong Excel and stock market analysis skills, and gaining hands-on experience through internships with broking houses, asset management companies, or research firms. Most profiles require NISM certification, MBA in finance, Chartered Financial Analyst, or Financial Risk Manager certification. Additionally, staying updated with daily market news will help you perform well in interviews, as recruiters value candidates who combine formal knowledge with practical market awareness. Now let's discuss different careers in stock market. First is Equity Research Analyst. Equity Research Analysts study companies, industries, and economic conditions to provide investment recommendations. They analyze financial statements, assess management quality, and build financial models to forecast future performance. Their reports help investors decide where to buy, hold, or sell stocks. Analysts often specialize in sectors like technology, healthcare, or energy. Strong analytical skills, attention to detail, and proficiency in Excel and valuation techniques are crucial. This role is common in brokerage houses, investment banks, and asset management firms. Next is a stockbroker. Stockbrokers act as intermediaries between buyers and sellers in the stock market. They execute buy and sell orders on behalf of clients, provide market insights, and sometimes advise on investment decisions. A broker's success depends on strong communication skills, salesmanship, and deep knowledge of market trends. In many countries, brokers require certification or licenses, like SEBI registration in India. The role can involve working with retail clients, institutions, or high net worth individuals. Next is portfolio management. Portfolio managers oversee investment portfolios for individuals, mutual funds, or institutions. They make decisions on asset allocation, stock selection, and risk management to meet clients' investment goals. This role requires strong market knowledge, analytical ability, and leadership. Portfolio managers often start as analysts and advance by proving their ability to generate consistent returns. They must monitor market trends, economic indicators, and company performance regularly. For a portfolio manager in India, SEBI regulations require specific qualifications and at least 5 years of relevant experience in investment related roles. Next is a trader. Traders buy and sell stocks, commodities, or other financial instruments with the aim of making profits from short term price movements. Proprietary traders use a firm's capital, while institutional traders work for large organizations like hedge funds or banks. Traders need NISM certifications, strong risk management skills, quick decision making, and expertise in technical analysis. The job is fast paced and can be stressful but rewarding if successful. Next is an investment banker. Investment bankers help companies raise capital through IPOs, debt issuance, and mergers and acquisitions. They advise on deal structuring, valuation, and negotiations. The role involves financial modeling, pitch presentations, and client interaction. It requires advanced finance qualifications like CFA or MBA, strong quantitative skills, networking, and the ability to work under pressure. Investment banking is demanding but often comes with high compensation and prestige. Next is a wealth manager. Wealth managers work directly with clients to create personalized investment plans, including retirement planning, tax planning, and estate planning. They build trustful relationships and offer ongoing portfolio reviews and advice. It requires NISM certifications, certified financial planner certification, good interpersonal skills, and a deep understanding of diverse financial products. Many advisors earn commissions or fees based on assets managed. Next is a quantitative analyst, which is also known as a quant analyst. He plays a crucial role in financial markets by developing and implementing mathematical models to analyze financial data, manage risk, and support trading decisions. Using advanced concepts in mathematics, statistics, and programming, quants create models that help financial institutions price complex instruments, forecast market trends, and design automated trading strategies. They work extensively with programming tools like Python, SQL, and rely on data-driven techniques, including machine learning, to interpret vast amounts of market data efficiently. A BCom graduate can become a quant analyst, but it's a challenging path because quant roles are heavily math and programming driven. Most employers prefer candidates with degrees in maths, statistics, engineering, physics, or computer science, or at least advanced finance degrees with strong quantitative training. By combining deep financial knowledge with technical expertise, quant analysts contribute to enhancing portfolio performance, reducing risk exposure, and gaining a competitive edge in fast-moving financial markets. Next is a financial journalist. A financial journalist play a vital role in financial markets by researching, analyzing, and reporting on economic trends, market movements, company performances, and policy developments. They bridge the gap between complex financial data and the general public, helping investors, professionals, and policymakers make informed decisions. Financial journalists write for newspapers, magazines, websites, and TV channels, often covering topics like stock markets, banking, budgeting, taxation, IPOs, and regulatory updates. A BCom graduate can become a financial journalist by building a strong foundation in commerce and economics and then enhancing their skills through writing practice, financial certifications like CFA or NCFM or NISM, and possibly a diploma or degree in journalism or mass communication. Interning with business new platforms, writing blogs on financial topics, and staying updated with current affairs can significantly boost their credibility and open doors in the world of financial media. Now let's talk about functions of financial markets in an economy. Mobilization of savings. financial markets play a crucial role in mobilizing savings from individuals and institutions. Rather than letting money sit idle, these markets offer various investment options such as stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which encourage people to save and invest. This process transforms savings into capital that can be used for productive purposes, fueling economic activity and long-term development. Economic indicator. Financial markets reflect the overall health of the economy. A rising stock market typically indicates investor confidence and economic growth, while a declining market may signal economic challenges. Policymakers, analysts, and businesses often use market trends as indicators to assess economic conditions and plan accordingly. Price discovery. Financial markets help determine the fair value of securities through the forces of demand and supply. Prices reflect investor perceptions of a company or asset's future performance, risks, and potential. This price discovery mechanism provides transparent information to all market participants, aiding better decision making for investors, companies, and policymakers alike. Support to government. Governments use financial markets to raise funds through the sale of bonds and treasury bills to finance infrastructure projects and public services. Additionally, central banks implement monetary policy through these markets by influencing interest rates and controlling money supply. A well-functioning financial market thus supports macroeconomic goals like growth, inflation control, and fiscal stability. Foreign investment inflows. Foreign investment inflows, especially from foreign institutional investors, play a significant role in strengthening a country's financial markets and economy. FIIs include entities like mutual funds, pension funds, and investment banks that invest in a country's stocks, bonds, and other financial instruments. A well-regulated, transparent, and liquid financial market attracts such investors by offering ease of entry and exit, multiple investment options, and the potential for higher returns compared to developed markets. These foreign investments bring in much needed capital, boost foreign exchange reserves, support the value of the domestic currency, and increase market efficiency. In conclusion, financial markets serve as the backbone of any economy by enabling the smooth flow of capital, fostering investment opportunities, and promoting financial growth. They connect savers and borrowers, facilitate price discovery, and ensure liquidity in the system. Understanding the structure, types, and functions of these markets is essential for anyone pursuing a career in commerce, finance, or investment. As financial markets continue to evolve with technology and global integration, staying informed and adaptable is key to making sound financial decisions and contributing meaningfully to the economy. That's all for financial markets. We will meet in the next video lecture of Upskilling Commerce series. Thank you.